Hello, and thank you for joining this recording of our webinar, The Risk of Buying a Home in 2024 and Why It Might Be Wise to Wait. I understand I am the owner of a real estate agency and the owner of a mortgage brokerage. I have a financial vested interest for people to be buying homes in 2024, so it might seem weird that I'm communicating this information. But my hope is that when you hear this information, that when you're experiencing this webinar, you experience some refreshing transparency. Because I believe that it is wise for some people to wait, but it might not be for the reasons that you think. Now, in this webinar, we're going to address some things. We're going to address the home value crash, because that's what a lot of people are scared of. That's what a lot of people are thinking about. You see, in 2008, the home value crash, the Great Recession that was there, that was something that is still on the top of people's minds. And nobody wants to buy a home and then have values crash, right? And that's what people are scared about. So is that going to happen in 2024? We're going to talk about that. Also, people are concerned about interest rates. Interest rates went really low the last couple of years, and now they're back up to a different level. And people are wondering, should I just wait to buy until interest rates go back down to where they were? I'm going to address that as well. I'm going to talk about what happened in the Great Recession and go over some data and see how that correlates to now. I'm also going to talk about what happened with the interest rates and how they went way down and go over some data and see how that correlates from now. But the thing I'm really going to talk about is timing. When is the right time to buy? Because this is the heart of all the questions and concerns that we have as it pertains to buying a home. You want to buy a home in the right time. And I believe there are some very specific things that you must consider and some very specific things you need to ignore as it pertains to purchasing a home at the right time. Now, let's take a look at some of the data about home value crashes. So here's what we've got. I've got this little map that talks about what happened to home values and a history of them. And it starts here in 2003, 2024, and it's saying what home values are, and they're appreciating right there. And that was in 2005, right? So this is when things are going really well. This blue is awesome. But then all of a sudden in 06 and 07, it starts going in the negative. And as we continue to look, it goes really bad. Home values are starting to plummet in the United States. And specifically in Maricopa County in January of 09, they went down 27.9%. Holy cow, that is a lot. And this is what people are scared of. People don't want to buy a home and then have this whole map fill up with yellow again. But as we see, as time goes on, the yellow starts to go away. It goes back into the blue. And over a period of years, things just start to increase and get better. And actually, over recent years, in April of 2022, home values, there was a month where they were increasing 28%. That's a pretty big deal. That's a pretty big deal that people are seeing values going up and then going down and then going up again. And this kind of volatility, all of these colors that are on this map, what's being explained on this map is something that people are scared of, that not everybody wants to buy a home and have their home values impacted negatively in that way. So I'm going to address what's going on with this and why and how things went to the level that they went to. All right, so let me pause this video and move on to the next slide. So here is how home values move up and down. They're all based on this one thing: the balance of supply and demand. The balance of supply and demand. Supply and demand controls the home values, and that's the most important thing for us to focus on. And it's the reason why we can fully understand what happened in 2008 and understand what happened when home values went way up in 2002. So if we look at this chart, this is what's known as the Cromford Index. There is a company, the Cromford Report, that is looking at data specifically here in Arizona about home values And they track these two lines, and the blue one is the supply, and the red one is the demand. And in a healthy market, when there's the right amount of supply and right amount of demand, things are at what they call 100, right? And when they're at 100 for both of them, we have an extremely healthy market, which is what we had in 2001 and 2002. Pretty neat. But then, remember, I said that home values went way down in the Great Recession. We all know that and experienced that. So what happened? Well, here's what happened. Supply went way up. A whole bunch of homes went on the market. A ton of homes went on the market at the same time over just a period of a few months. And then demand went way down. So then when demand went way down over a period of a few years and supply remained high, there was this big gap here. And this big gap is the reason why home values went way, way down. There were so many homes on the market and not enough people willing to buy them that the values just crashed. That's what happened. And proof of this supply and demand index, we can see from 2002 when things were really well. Look, the demand is up here now, right? And the supply is way down here. So when the opposite happens, home values go way up. And that is how home valuations are handled. It's all about supply and demand. So as I say here, home values are all about the total number of homes for sale measured against the total number of buyers. And imbalances cause the booms or the bust. That is how it works. That is how supply and demand works. So what happened in 08 and 09? Well, let me explain that to you. In 08 and 09, we see here that the reason why a whole bunch of homes went on the market and supply significantly increased is because there was a ton of foreclosures, a ton of bankruptcies. In 06, 07, and then 08 and 09, look at this. Bankruptcies like crazy. And then right here, a ton of homes went on the market because of the foreclosures. And with those foreclosures, there was a whole bunch of banks owning these properties, and they just put them on the market. And when they were put on the market all en masse over a period of months, it dramatically increased the supply, and that impacted the market. Now let's fast forward, though, to where we're at today. This is a sneak peek. I'll refer back to this later. But 2021, 2022, 2023, Q1, here's where foreclosures and bankruptcies are now. Again, here's the crash of the Great Recession. Lots of foreclosures and bankruptcies. Here we are today. Very, very few. Again, I'll reference that later. So that's what happened with supply. A big change in supply happened because there's a lot of foreclosures and bankruptcy, and that's why there's a lot of homes that went on the market. But there also, remember, there's that demand. The demand went way down too. Well, demand decreased because loans were tougher to come by. The subprime loans changed. All those foreclosures happened, and banks decided, okay, we got to change the way that we're doing loans. And they significantly tightened the guidelines, making it harder for people to qualify for loans. And some even argue that the loans that were available back then that caused all those foreclosures never should have been approved anyways, right? So banks decided, okay, we got to change this. And they did. And when they changed the types of loans that were available, that demand decreased. So what happened is foreclosures, and that caused a whole big old supply spike. Those foreclosures caused the banks to tighten their loan guidelines, and demand decreased. And now there's this big gap between supply and demand, and that significantly hurt home values. That is what happened in 2008 and 2009. So will that happen again? Well, here's the truth. Here's the reality. There are no indications of supply and demand disruption happening in the near future. There are no indications of supply and demand disruption happening in the near future. Again, I'll go back to that slide. Very few foreclosures are happening right now. Very few foreclosures. This is not 2008, 2009. So as a result, we likely will not see a ton of issues with supply coming up. And more proof of that is on this chart here, mortgage delinquency rate and unemployment rate. Look where it's at. Look where it's at. It is extremely low. 2002, 2023. 2009, 2010, remember the Great Recession? It was up here. Look where it's at right now. It's down here. It's down here. It's even at low levels from extremely healthy, booming economies from over here, right? So there is no data that says a lot of foreclosures or even mortgage delinquencies are there to bring a lot of supply to the market. There's no data that says that a repeat of that's going to happen. And foreclosures, bankruptcy, and mortgage delinquencies are all extremely low. Moreover, it's tough for house prices to fall when income and employment are increasing like they have been. No matter how overpriced people feel like home values are. Look at this chart right here. The red is the real disposable income. Right now, it's extremely high. And the blue is the employees, the unemployment number. So right now, the unemployment blue is going down, yet the real disposable personal income is going up. So where we're sitting today has income and unemployment down in the country. And as a result, people are continuing to buy homes, and there isn't a lot of delinquencies. So there's no real signs of big foreclosures, a whole bunch of supply coming to the market, and a valuation crash. People who are waiting for another 2008 for home values to crash, they could be waiting for a while because, again, there's no signs of that happening right now. But what about mortgage rates, right? So let's say you're not the type of person who says, I'm not going to wait until there's a home value crash. I'm actually waiting for interest rates to go down because interest rates got really low. There was a time where they got extremely low. And in 2020 through the 2022 period, they were as low threes, even high twos for some. So this is a big deal, man. Rates were super low. But what causes rates to go below 5%? Here's this line of 5%. I want you guys to pay attention to this 5% line right here. Because I'm going to share with you a history of mortgage rates. This chart reveals that rates below 5% is very, historically speaking, rare. Even the 15-year fixed rate is not often below 5%. And I want to talk to you about what happened right here when rates got to below 5% and then they stayed below 5% for a long time. What happened in that period? What happened in that period? I want to reveal to you guys what happened in that period so that we can see and understand if it's going to happen again, because we're not below 5% right now. Well, government intervention. Artificial economic stimulation by the federal government is what brought interest rates down starting in 2009 in that 2010 period for several years all the way through 2022. The government can do this thing to stimulate the economy to artificially bring mortgage interest rates down, and it's called buying mortgage-backed securities. And that's a fancy term by just saying they're putting more money into the mortgage market. And when they put more money into the mortgage market, there's more money that's available, and as a result, interest rates go down. And in 2009 is when they first started doing that. 2009 is when the government first started purchasing mortgage-backed securities. Here, this chart is even a history of all the times mortgage-backed securities were purchased. These are all the times stimulus was passed in the government to purchase things. And if we remember what happened in 2020 with the COVID stimulus stuff, there was a gigantic purchase right here. The biggest one happened just a few years ago. And that's why interest rates got to low threes, high twos, because the government stimulated the economy artificially. But this is very important to note. Let's look right here. September 15, 2022. The purpose of purchasing mortgage-backed securities is to repress mortgage rates and inflate home values. Okay, that's what they were trying to do because there was trouble in the Great Recession. They needed to do that. And then they were scared of shutting down the country during the COVID stuff, so they needed to resuscitate the economy. This is not a necessity, though, in today's economy. As a result, on 9/15/2022, the Fed stopped buying mortgage-backed securities. On 9/15/2022, the Fed stopped buying mortgage-backed securities. So in 2010, back to this chart, in 2010, 2009, they bought mortgage-backed securities. 2022, they stopped buying them right here. So what caused rates to go below 5%? It was government intervention, government stimulus. And why does government do that? Well, if the economy is in a bad situation, then the government is going to step in. So will they do that? I mean, surely what goes up must come down, right? Well, I think that depends on what your baseline is for up or down. So I drew a red line on this chart, again, that interest rate chart. I think historically speaking, we can see that interest rates are above this 5% line most of the time. I mean, even if you go back to the 80s, I mean, people can remember some of these times when interest rates were super high. But if I put this baseline here as where rates are probably normally at, we're actually at normal levels right now. The 6% range is really good and normal, especially if there's no government stimulus, a government intervention. But it's also important to understand, okay, well, where's the economy? Is the government going to step in and do this again? I got a chart of the GDP in the United States, which is one of the economic measures. This is something the government does measure to determine if they need to intervene and they need to step in and buy more things like mortgage-backed securities. Well, right now, if this red line is your baseline, which is typically a healthy GDP number, it's above that right now. And it's been above that. Q2 2023, Q4 2023, even Q4 2022 is right on it. So based on the data, there's nothing that says the government is going to step in and buy mortgage-backed securities. And based on the data, there's nothing that says the interest rates are going to go down like crazy like they did before, because I don't think the government's going to step in and buy mortgage-backed securities. And really, where interest rates are at right now is pretty darn good. So again, the question is, what's your baseline? What comes up must come down? Not necessarily. Let's even look at home values again. If you see home values on this chart from 2019 to 2024, yeah, we had that big spike from what happened in 2021 to 2022. Big old spike in home values, right? But even if you take that spike away, the speed with which home values are going up, I mean, we're right on track. We're right on track, maybe a little bit below what's on track. But it's that baseline. If we look at that for home values, even that is normal. So what I'm seeing in the data is that interest rates, they're at a normal level. And that home values, they're also at a normal level. And there's no data or anything that says a repeat of 08 is going to happen and a repeat of the mortgage interest rates from COVID is going to happen. So let's ask these questions. Could values and rates go down? Yes, it is possible. Because the truth is, no one knows with certainty what will happen. And that's important for you to hear. It is possible. No one knows with certainty what will happen. Will there be a crash or a bust? It's possible, but it's not likely. And I showed you why. All the data and evidence suggests otherwise. And I think this is the question that a lot of us need to consider and think through. Are things back to normal? Well, a lot of things are. I think some adjustments are still needed in our economy, and I think there are a lot of adjustments still coming. But it doesn't seem like these gigantic adjustments are going to be coming to home values, and these gigantic adjustments are going to be coming to mortgage rates. The big thing I think that needs to be adjusted is our mindset as consumers. For us to think that there's going to be another crash because there was one in 08, and what happened before must happen again specifically exactly in that way, well, the data doesn't prove it or show it. And just because interest rates went really low, we have to think, oh, that's going to happen again. Well, the data doesn't necessarily prove that. So I think it's important to adjust our mindset. And if you don't believe me, well, let's just look at what investors are doing. Follow the money. You guys, in 2024, right before the end of, or at the end of 2023, investors started buying homes like crazy, specifically in Arizona. 22% of the market share, 22% of the purchases that were happening in Arizona were bought by investors. And investors have all kinds of data and information that help them make these decisions. They're buying homes not just because they want to. They're doing it because it's a business and they have to appease investors. They're buying homes. They're not scared of a crash. They're not waiting for rates to go down. And this is their business. I think that's important to notice, to follow that money. So you don't just have to take it from me. So let's just see what the mindset is. Again, I think the adjustments need to be happening, but I think the consumer mindset is the real adjustment that needs to happen. So let's assume we buy a home. The first thing we have to do, though, is make sure we're buying it under the right mindset. And that is that a home is a shelter. We need a place to live. Whether we're renting or we're buying, we have to pay for a roof over our head, shelter. If you think of the home you're buying as shelter first, because that's what it is, and not necessarily an investment first, it changes the mindset. Because when you buy a home as shelter first, you're buying it in the right neighborhood, the right floor plan, and you're making sure the finances work for you. Those three things are extremely important. So as long as you did that when you bought a home, let's say home values crash. What are you going to do? How does it impact you? Here's the truth. It only impacts you if you sell. Would you sell? If it's the right neighborhood, the right floor plan, and the payment is working great for you, why would you sell? So that home value going down has no impact on you. Maybe it does on your paper net worth, but not necessarily a real impact on your day-to-day life. And proof of this point, what happens if values go way up? If values go way up, what are you going to do? Sell? Because again, you need shelter. So if you sell because you want to take advantage of the values going way up, well, where are you going to go buy shelter? Because the values going up in your neighborhood likely means values are going up all over in many other neighborhoods. And you're not going to receive the financial benefit that you maybe thought you would. So it seems enticing, but again, it's shelter. You still need a place to live. And if the neighborhood was great, if the floor plan's great, and if the payment's great, why would you sell? The truth is, when you're purchasing a home, you need to make sure it's affordable. That's the proper mindset. Because here's what you need to hear. You cannot control the market. Focusing on the market is only going to frustrate you and prevent you from placing needed energy where it matters most. A shelter you love at a price you can afford. That's where the focus needs to be. It's got to be shelter you love at a price you can afford. So how do you time your purchase? How do you time your purchase in the market? Well, the first thing you have to understand is you don't let the market, you don't let the government, you don't let a salesperson like me tell you when to buy. You buy on your time. This is the big takeaway from this video. Buying a home, timing the market is done on your time, not anybody else's. You have to make sure that your family situation, your shelter situation, and your financial situation are in the right spot. That's when you buy. Those are the things that are under more of your control. Those are the things that are more top of mind for you. And those are the things that will matter when home values go up or down. You got to make sure that your family, your job, your income, your finances, all of that is in the right place to make a purchase. And you don't let me, you do not let a salesperson, you don't let a government, you don't let a market tell you when to buy. And when it comes to finances, some of us are asking, okay, well, what makes sure I'm in the right situation? Well, it comes to understanding if your income, your assets, and your credit are in the right spot. We need to make sure that your income, your assets, and your credit are in a good spot. If those three things are in a good spot, typically the finances are good. But again, a lot of people don't ever really fully know or understand, like, are those in a good spot for me? And this is why we've created the free home buying game plan. If you go to stewardship.pro/game plan, we reveal to you kind of what we do in this free appointment. But we will meet with people, whether they're 3 months or 3 years away from buying a home, and we will provide for them a game plan that tells them exactly where they're at with their income, their assets, their credit, talk about where they want to be, and then give them a report with data and information of very simple steps that they can take before their time comes. Because when your time comes, when you're in a spot with your family, when you're in a spot with your job and other things going on in your life that it does make sense to buy a home, you don't want to be scrambling around trying to figure out the finances. You want to make sure that they are too in a good spot. And our home buying game plans give you the proper steps that you can take so that when your time comes, you're fully ready, especially with your finances. And this is a service that we offer for free, the home buying game plan. Again, the big thing to note is do not let a market, do not let a government, do not let a salesperson tell you when to buy a home. You buy on your time. You buy on your time. All right, so now there is a truth, and this is something that a lot of people are feeling and know and understand, and that is affordability is still an issue. Guys, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. What it took to buy a home, or what it takes to buy a home now, as far as a household income is concerned on an average, is very different than it was years and years ago. That's a big jump. And that is still an issue today. People want to buy homes, but affordability is an issue. So what can be done to purchase a home and make it more affordable? I'm going to reveal to you a 3-step process that you can go through or consider to get your next home purchase to be more affordable when your time comes. The first is find the right area. We're going to talk about looking in other areas or looking in areas or knowing where home values are maybe a little less expensive. The second one is for people who own a home currently, and it's using your current home wisely. But then the last one is get money from Stewardship. Get money from us to make your interest rate lower. That's right. We'll give you money at closing to make your interest rate lower, which dramatically decreases your payment. And some of you are wondering, what? You guys do what? And I'll reveal that to you here soon. Okay, so let's look at these homes and buying them in other areas. This is a map of all of the approved zones for a whole bunch of new builds, which is kind of fun and to see all the development that's happening. But this is like the typical metropolitan Phoenix area, right? So if you decide to purchase outside of that, there could be, and there is, a lot of approved zones. Now, something that's important to note is that the purple is approved and not active. The red is active. Remember, what impacts values? Well, it's supply and demand, and home builders are really smart. They're not going to kill their investment by throwing a whole bunch of homes on the market all at once, because that would dramatically reduce the pricing. So they're not going to do that. So remember that. But then also another thing to note is if you do buy in a new home community, use a real estate agent. Use a real estate agent. If you don't, the builder who's selling you the home, they don't represent you. They work for the builder. And you're going to be engaging in a very lengthy contract, and not only a contract, a construction process. And you want to make sure that your needs are being represented well. So whether you use my company or not, Stewardship Realty, to be a real estate agent, again, I'm here to tell you, use a real estate agent when you go look at buying a home. And really, you should connect with a real estate agent before looking at any of these new developments, because they'll try to get you into their teeth and force you to use them or have them, quote, represent you, and they won't allow you to use a real estate agent. But buying a home in another area, and there's a lot of opportunities of those areas, is one way that you can see, okay, does it make sense for me to move in a different or live in a different city? Well, I asked Nate, who is the real estate agent on our team, to come up with a list of cities, and I asked him, hey, tell me what the lowest priced home is on the market right now in each city, and then the highest priced home is on the market in each city. So he gave me this list, so you can now see what, as of Friday, and that was the end of February, what the lowest price home was in each city and what the highest price home was in each city. And then also, we can see that each city has a different supply and demand market. Remember that Cromford report, I said 100 means balanced market? So if we look, there's only a few cities that are imbalanced where supply and demand is in a good level. That's Cave Creek, Paradise Valley, and Surprise. Well, if we look at Peoria and up, all of these cities, look, their index is way above 100, which means there's a lot more buyers than there is supply. And what that means is there's competition and home values are going up. And it might be tougher to buy homes in these cities. Whereas on these cities, it's the opposite. There's more demand than there is supply. And you're going to be able to negotiate differently with the seller, and home values might be easier to come by in those cities or towns. Now, this isn't something that's for everybody. Not everybody wants to live in one of those cities or a city just outside the metropolitan Phoenix area, but I think this is something worth considering for everyone. So should you do it? Well, that's up to you and your family and your time, because that's how purchases should be done. I'm just presenting the data for you to consider. But another thing that I think you should consider is using your home wisely. If you sell your home that you currently have, you can use the proceeds from that to lower the amount that you get on the mortgage for your next home, and that would significantly reduce your monthly payment. But another thing that you can do is you can keep your home, especially if it's one of those homes that's at a really low rate, low 3s, high 2s. You might not want to get rid of that mortgage. You can keep that home, and you can rent that home out. And if you rent it out, well, now you're going to increase your income, which helps make things more affordable. So this could be an option for you. But some folks, they're not excited about dealing with tenants and toilets, and they've never been a landlord before. They're not sure they want to do it, or they don't want to hire a professional company to manage it for them. So what you could do when you sell your home is you could use the proceeds from that to put into an investment to earn some income. And this is something that we do at Stewardship Financial. We have a number of different types of investment opportunities that do produce income, whether it be stock portfolios that produce monthly income dividends, or also we have real estate funds that also produce monthly income. So these are three things that you can consider to help make things more affordable for you. You can get the mortgage on your next home a whole lot less. You can earn more income through renting your current home, or you can earn more income by having a wise investment, and that would help as well. Now let's talk about that third strategy. Yes, we give you money to use at closing, and at Stewardship Realty, we give you 20% of our commission at closing so that you can use that to make the purchase even more affordable. This is something that we're doing for many reasons, but one of them is to help fight this affordability issue, because with this money, you can buy down your interest rate and you can get a much lower payment. And for more information on this, you can check it out at stewardship.pro/buy a home, stewardship.pro/buy a home. Or you can just go to stewardship.pro and navigate over there. But there's something that's important to note and to consider, that this buying down of interest rate, this is a thing. A lot of people don't know that. This means that if interest rates are at a particular level, if you have money, you can use the money to buy down the interest rate permanently on your mortgage moving forward. So in most markets, we're able to negotiate what's called a seller contribution, where the seller provides money to you to use at closing. And then when you combine that with what we give you at closing, I've put together a scenario on a $500,000 loan based on today's market conditions. We can lower a payment up to $317.57. On a $500,000 loan, you're talking over $300 a month savings. Now that is a great way to make things more affordable. And this doesn't require you to own a current home, and this doesn't require you to move in different cities or towns. This is a wonderful option. If you use Stewardship Realty as your real estate agency, we will give you part of our commission to use at closing. We'll do everything we can to negotiate a seller contribution and help make sure that your interest rate permanently is below market. So let's talk about this whole idea of waiting. Should you wait? Should you wait to buy a home? Well, if you're renting, you're waiting on the market because you're waiting for another crash of 2008, right? And then when you continue to wait, it doesn't happen. Well, you're going to wait for interest rates. We're going to wait for the rates to get lower like they were just after COVID. And then it doesn't happen. And then you got to rent again, and rent goes up. Now, renting is not evil. Renting is not wrong. Renting is actually good for many people. But if you're only renting just because you're waiting on the market, I don't know if that's wise, and here's why. What your dollar buys today is different than what it used to buy. Look at apartment rents, what you could get for under $500. Not even a thing really in Arizona anymore. What you could get from $500 to $1,000. Whoa, that went way down, right? And even home values. You could have bought a home for under $200,000. There was a lot of them. Over 70% of the market had homes over $200,000. Now, below 10%. And sadly, I know people who were waiting on the market, and they didn't buy back here, even though they could afford it, and they qualified. They were waiting on another crash. And now here they are, trying to buy a home. And home values are a lot higher. And here they are, renting, and the rent's gone up. Rent is a lot higher. This is something that's important to note. When it comes to the cost of shelter, a roof over your head, a fixed mortgage payment is a great alternative to increasing rates. A fixed mortgage payment is a great alternative to increasing rates, and let me show you why. Sure, yeah, home values go way up. Home values can change over a period of time, and if we look over, a 22-year period of time here, home values, this is what would have happened if you would have purchased a home back in 2001. Your value would be way up. Pretty neat, right? But what I really want to show you is this blue line. If you bought here, the principal and interest part of your mortgage payment would still be the same. That monthly part of your cash flow is still super low. And what has likely happened over this 20-year period, not only have home values gone up, but I bet you rents have gone up. What has also happened over this 20-year period, you're probably a really great employee. You work hard, you find a need, and you fill it, and your income has gone up. This is a huge deal. This is a big deal for all of us to understand that the principal and interest portion of a mortgage payment on a 30-year fixed mortgage, it doesn't change. It doesn't change over that period of time. And this is one of the many reasons why we are so passionate about helping people obtain the lowest interest rate possible, not only with our mortgage company and how we uniquely use our pricing, but also with our real estate company and how we give people money to use that closing to buy down the interest rate way below market values. This is a big deal. Again, renting isn't evil. It's not terrible. But if you're only renting because you're waiting for values to crash, I don't know. So, what did we talk about in this webinar? We talked about the home value crash. Is there going to be a repeat of 2008? No one knows for sure, but the data is very different now than what caused 2008. What about interest rates? Should I wait for interest rates to go down before I buy? Will they ever go back down into the threes? Well, in my opinion, no, it won't. That would take some extreme government intervention. And the economy's doing really well, and I don't think the government's going to be stepping in anytime soon to make that happen. And what about timing? When should you and how should you try to time the market? It doesn't matter about the market. It doesn't matter about the interest rate. The timing of your purchase should be on your time. It should be on your time. Don't let anything I've said in this webinar force you or push you to buy a home today. That's not what I want you to do. I want you to look in the mirror and evaluate your time. Because buying a home needs to be done on your time. That's the best way to time the market. Don't let a market, don't let a government, don't let a salesperson tell you when to buy. You buy on your time based on your family's ready, based on your personal living situation, and based on your personal financial situation. And if you're wondering if your finances are in the right spot, if your credit, if your income, and your assets are in a good spot, we'll evaluate that for you for free. You can come into our office, sit on the couch, in one of the offices, drink some of our really good, tasty cold brew coffee, relax, and be presented with all the information and data. We'll make it a very comfortable environment for you. You can even bring in your kids. It's totally fine. Or you can do this in a web meeting, or you can do this over the phone. Either way, we want to make sure that people have the information about their personal financial situation so they can compare it against their personal living situation, so that we have people in our community here in Arizona buying homes on their time. That's how you properly time the market, and that's what we're passionate about. That's what we want people to do, to buy homes on their time, not a market's time, not a government's time. So thank you so much for watching this video. Thank you so much for engaging with this. There are a lot of people who registered for this. Some of you didn't necessarily want to watch this live. You wanted this recording. And I didn't want to spam people's inbox with the recording. I only wanted to give it to people who actually wanted it. However, I believe the information in this recording is valuable. So if you found this valuable, please share it. You can take the link, you can take the email, you can forward it to whomever you'd like, if you think that this would be valuable to them. If you have questions, you can follow me on social media, whether it be at Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. You can follow me by searching my name. I'm providing information like this and more. You'll also see pictures of me and my family. We're actually headed to a spring training Cubs game later today, so you get to see pictures of that too. But if you want one of those game plans, you can go to stewardship.pro/game plan. And if you have questions about real estate in general, Nate Swartz is one of our realtors on our team, and he's the one who provided all that information about what those homes are in each of those cities at the low level and at the high level. And maybe you want to see, hey, what does that low level home look like? Or what was that high level home look like? He'll send you links to whatever you want for free. You can reach out to him, Nate at stewardship.pro, or you can call or text him at 602-888-2989. And Nate, he's one of those agents that gives 20% of his commission to you to use that closing when your time comes to buy a home. Again, that's the big takeaway, guys. I don't think there's going to be another 2008 crash. At least that's not what the data says. I don't think there's going to be another mortgage interest rates go way down. At least that's what the data says. But what we all need to make sure we're doing is we only buy a home on our time, and we have to evaluate our own personal situation for the living and our own financial situation. And we're here to help you with the financial situation, so that when your time comes, you're fully ready. All right, guys. Hope this was helpful. Thanks a lot.